What's going on, everyone? Manny here. Welcome back to the channel. And I'm just coming back from a nice market visit. Got a lot of stuff for the next week, some broccoli, potatoes. I also found some mangosteens and I had to try them out because I didn't know mangosteens from Thailand. And I have to say, pretty interesting fruit. It's almost like lychee inside, like soft jelly stuff, sweet, really nice taste. And I made myself a little bit of a smoothie. It's a standard recipe as always. 4 bananas, 1 apple, bunch of flax seeds, I think 2 to 3 tablespoons or something like that, and a bunch of water, of course. Today's a rest day. Yesterday was an awesome training day. I'm pretty destroyed. Quite a few sets on the campus board and on the bouldering wall. Built myself some brachiating boulders. Was awesome. Today I'm destroyed. It's a rest day. And so I thought I'll make this video, the big video. We're gonna answer the big question. I've got this question a lot recently. Do you still study, man? What are you doing? Why do you have so much time for traveling around and stuff? And that's what I'm gonna try to answer today, and I'm gonna say you right at the beginning. I'm a climbing channel. That means that I have probably a lot of climbers in my audience, and that means that I have probably a lot of students in my audience. Because let's be honest, climbing is probably the most student-heavy sport that exists on the planet right now. Correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, anything I will say, please don't feel offended by anything or stuff. I'm just gonna share my honest, authentic opinion as always, and it's gonna be probably a little bit of a rant about the educational system and stuff like that. And what I want to say as well is, I want to be as authentic and honest as possible, and this is why I will try to keep this episode with as little jump cuts as possible. So for those of you who are not so familiar with filmmaking terms, this is a jump cut. So when you want to deliver a message, with a video, then it's of course easy to use a lot of jump cuts because you just learn one sentence, you speak out your sentence, and if you do a mistake, you do it again, and then you jump cut everything together, and you make one nice video with exactly the message that you want to present, But it's less authentic, it's less honest. It's just like when doing a climbing video, for example, and you do all the time jump cuts, you see one boulder move, and then you do a jump cut, next boulder move of one route, compared to seeing the whole route in one continuous flow. Okay, it has so much more. There is so much more information in when you see just the whole route, including the rest. You can think about strategy and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I'm getting off track already. So I will try to keep the jump cuts as low as possible during this episode to stay as authentic, as honest as possible. So, do I still study? Let's get finally into it. Well, I have a pretty direct answer for you. No, I don't study anymore. So some of you might ask yourselves maybe why I stopped studying. By the way, I have here my little notes so that don't forget anything with my key points again, as always. Some of you might ask why I don't study anymore. So this is going to be, as I said, a little bit of a rant about the educational system, so please don't feel offended by this. I'm not telling anyone to stop studying or do whatever the hell you want to do. I mean, of course you should do whatever the hell you want to do, but if you want to study, then study. Anyway, I don't study anymore. Why do I don't study anymore? Point number 1 is I'm sick of learning useless knowledge. So, as some of you might know, I studied as a biology student. I studied biology. And in the first 4 years of my studies, I did my bachelor, which means that I needed 1 year longer than it should be. Then it has to be. The least amount of time you need to study for the bachelor is 3 years, at least here in Austria. I don't know how it is in other educational systems. But anyway, the bachelor was really, really interesting, and I didn't regret anything about my educational experiences, I don't know, about my educational history. So I did the bachelor, and you learn all these things, how everything works together, the big picture, the bacteria, the plants, the animals, the fungi, the sea, the land, the air, all these ecosystems, the forest, the desert, the poles, and all this stuff. You learn about the ecology of all these things and how it all works together, and you get a pretty accurate, at least in my opinion, I think you get a pretty accurate picture of what the world looks like, how it works, what are the mechanisms, what was the past like, how did we get to this state, and probably also what is the future state going to look like, And this is something that really interested me in biology. And this is why I can only recommend, if you study anything, then you should probably study biology if you want to have a good picture of how the world works, from a scientific point of view. If you look at the organisms, the animals, and we as humans, we are animals too. We work in the same way. And this is something that's really, really interesting. So I don't regret anything. Then I got into the master. When I started to study the master, I first specialized in something that's called molecular microbiology, microbial ecology, and immunology. And what interested me in this study the most was microbial ecology, because the ecological aspect of bacteria is incredibly interesting. Just a side note, you have to know that everything on this planet is essentially run by bacteria, okay? So even though we are animals, we have bacteria in us, an incredible amount. All our energy metabolism is essentially done by bacteria who live inside of our cells, the mitochondria, which got into our cells, I don't know, millions of years ago, during the course of evolution, of course. And this is something that really interested me, but I had to find out that in the first semester I got a lot of things in the lab, and it's really, really boring, man. And you're surrounded by white walls all the time. And I had also the feeling that people that I looked at who were specialists in their field, they were the best people around of their field, but they weren't happy. They weren't really happy. They had this certain psyche for their studies and for their science and stuff, but I don't know, they sipped coffee all day long, they smoked their cigarettes all day long, just waiting for the lunch, and for the lunch at noon. I don't know, man, I didn't feel the spirit, I didn't feel the thing that I say, wow, this is what I want to do as well. So what I did next was I switched to zoology, the animal stuff and stuff like that, in the hope that I would get more outdoors and do more of this stuff. And here I had to find out that if you go on a master and doing zoology, studying animals, then you mostly do useless knowledge. I don't know, these people, they work with the bones, of very, very tiny animals. They take a look at insects, for example, and they've got this micro CT and all these incredibly sophisticated tools to look inside of this animal and analyze every bone. You can calculate the volume of every bone. You can calculate the density, how heavy it is, and all this kind of stuff. But it's incredibly expensive, of course, to run all these machines, these micro CTs and these micro MRTs and what not is there, and what not there all is, I don't know. However, you generate only useless knowledge, in my opinion, because who could ever do something with that, How can you use that? I mean, that's a general problem with basic science, with generating knowledge in general. You don't know how it's going to be used. Maybe it's going to be of some use in 200 years, you don't know. But I didn't have the impression that they generate useful knowledge. And also, if you do post a paper about this certain bone, then how many people in the world are going to appreciate that? There are maybe 5 other specialists somewhere around the globe, someone in the United States, someone in India, and someone in China or whatever. And they're gonna take a look at this paper and say, wow, nice work, I wanted to do the same actually, now I can build up from there. I mean, come on, 5 people, you have to put an incredible amount of time and effort into your work to get this knowledge, you know? And if only 5 people are appreciating that, and that's only natural because it's useful, it's useless knowledge, okay? So this is something, here I can only compare to what I did, what I created during my YouTube thing, you know. I made a video about gripping technique. This thing has 215,000 views up until now. And I can only imagine, man, how many finger injuries this thing already prevented, you know. This is so, I invested 20 hours in making this video. It was kind of an elaborated video actually, but this is so much more useful, man. It's incredible. Today we live in a time where by moving around some bits and bytes, you know, with the internet, you can generate something really valuable for a lot of people. And this is something, I got so much more out of this than out of these studies, you know. And it was useful until the bachelor, and from there it went down in usefulness. So I was there, second semester completed, 5 years into my studies of biology, and I thought, man, it's somehow time to abandon this stuff, you know. And I also would have to pick a master thesis and all this kind of stuff, and it would have meant to invest 1 more year into this master thesis and finishing all that stuff up. I wouldn't have been able to keep up with the traveling, with the YouTube videos and all that kind of stuff, and that's what I want to do much more. I want to learn from the real world, you know, from actual experiences. I don't want to learn about the rainforest in some kind of concrete building surrounded by other bored dudes who are looking in their smartphone all the time. That's something I don't want to do. I want to be there, you know. I want to see the freaking trees growing in the hay, and I want to feel the moistness and hear the sounds. This teaches you so much more than any theoretical stuff. Anyway, let's move on to the next point that I have here, because it's getting long already. You can't set yourself apart by studying nowadays. You have to be... this is something I realized as well. There are so many people studying, you know. I remember when I started studying biology, there was already a big bunch of people trying to get into the courses, and there was some kind of competition, you know. You had to place some points, and whoever placed you per semester, you were given 1,000 points or something like that, and you had to place your points onto the certain courses, and whoever has had the highest bet, so to say. Of course, you didn't know what other people placed in when it comes to points. Whoever placed the highest bets, the first 8 people got into the course, you know. And there were so many people, man. There was so much competition. And now, 5 years later, I don't know, it's even double as much people, okay? Double as many people than when I started. So there are so many people studying. And the reason for this is, I want to see if I'm actually ready for already explaining this. The reason for this is that I have the impression that it's super fucking easy, man. I don't know, everybody nowadays gets a high school degree, and so everybody nowadays goes to the university and studies things. So this is a really strange development for me to see. Anyway, there are so many people. You cannot set yourself apart by studying nowadays. And the thing is, once you're in the system, you don't, it's not hard. It's as I said, it's super easy. You've got only these multiple choice tests. You basically only learn and repeat. So what you do essentially is you go to the high school, you invest your time, you get your degree. You go to the university, you invest your time, you get your degree. That's all they want from you. They want from you to sit down, invest your time, give them your time essentially, and then you get your degree, because that's what's happening here, at least in the thing that I was studying. It's really easy. You just read everything, remember, read again and remember. You don't really have to think about the logical connections and stuff. Maybe I studied the wrong thing, maybe it would have been different when I've studied mathematics or physics or stuff like that. Maybe I should have done that. Anyway, you don't really have to use your brain anymore, You just learn and remember. And this just takes time. And I think this is also, girls are really good at this. So there is a huge amount of girls at university right now at the moment. Another reason, by the way, for this is here in Austria, especially because studying is free. You don't have to pay anything to study, So this is also something, on the one hand you can say, wow, nice, everybody can go to study, there is no discrimination between people. Not only the rich people can study, also poorer people can study, everybody can study. Yes, this is true, this is one advantage of having a free educational system, but the one disadvantage is that you don't really put any effort in anymore, because you see, if I have to pay for something, then I'm much more motivated to really get the most out of this stuff. If I don't have to pay for something, it's I can have it anyway. I don't need to put much effort into it. And that's the feeling that I have as well with a lot of these students, They do their studies aside and wait for things to happen. They don't know what they really want to do in life. And I was at the same position, man. I tell you, I was at the same position. So anyway, that's my impression. There are a lot of people. Studying is super easy nowadays. I don't know how it is in some kind of elite university, I don't know how studying is in Harvard maybe. There it's maybe different. You really have to do a lot of presentations maybe and show that you studied this stuff, that you actually understand the logic behind the mechanisms. Today, this is not the case anymore, at least in the thing that I studied, which is unfortunate. I think this was in former times this was different. But anyway, let's move on to the next point. And I think the next point is, it doesn't really make you a better person. It's an interesting one. Okay, and it's actually the last one, I think. It doesn't really make you a better person. So what do I mean with that? My goal in life is to become the best person I can be. I want to be fit physically. I want to also be fit mentally. I want to have my skills. I want to get better in these skills. I want to get a better climber. I want to get a better video maker. I want to get better in speaking languages, and I want to get better at understanding the big picture, at understanding the world, how it works, and all these things. And I had the impression that studying did not get me further in regards to these goals than not studying, okay? There was a time where studying was really useful. This was the first 3 years, maybe the first 4 years when doing my bachelor. Because in the bachelor, as I said, you have general knowledge. Also, this knowledge is very proven already. It exists for a longer time, and it's very, very reliable, This knowledge, for example, the Earth is not flat, it's fucking round, it's a fucking globe, okay? And we know this for a long, long time. It's proven knowledge. So knowing that the Earth is round is something that will definitely make you a bit more wise, it will make you a wiser person. The knowledge that is generated today is so specific and so abstract. It's only dealing with small little molecules and stuff like that. Man, this is statistics, You have to, if you want to create new knowledge nowadays, you have to move outwards in more and more unsure regions of statistics. So it's getting, because it's so abstract and so specialized, it's getting it's only theories anymore. It's only, okay, I propose this theory, it could be like that, and then you have to make 10 more studies to get more statistics about it and maybe prove it or disprove it or whatever. So I have the feeling, if you're at the beginning of a scientific study, like physics, mathematics, biology, this kind of stuff, the natural sciences, then you get a lot of new, really good knowledge into your brain. But as you move forward into your masters and maybe doctor and whatnot, the more abstract it becomes and the more, I don't know, man. It doesn't make you, I have the feeling at this point, it doesn't make you a better person anymore. Another reason why I say this is that being a good person means also being honest, being an honorable person. They're an honorable person, an honest person. It makes sense that these two words, they are almost the same, okay? So you have to be honest. You have to play with open cards. And the universities of today's, they do exactly the opposite with you. I recognize this with myself as well. Because you have so many students at the university nowadays, you don't have time to make sophisticated exams and formulate complex questions and stuff like that, because then you will get a complex answer, and reading complex answers from 500 students per exam is simply impossible. So what happens is that you create all these multiple choice tests, You only get multiple choice tests anymore with you just make your checks or you don't check. They run this through a computer, through a machine, and then they evaluate who passed the exam or who does not pass the exam. I don't know how it is at your university, but that's at least how it was at my university. And the thing is, when you run these multiple choice tests for some years, for some semesters, we have the internet now, okay? People can get this information easily. They will see, this question appears at almost every test, okay, of this certain exam. And of course, it's also impossible by professors to always invent new questions for each and every new multiple choice test, okay? So what you have these forums in the internet with all these questions, man. All these questions from these multiple choice tests listed up. And you just have to go there, learn them, and this is exactly what I mean, You don't have to really think about the logical mechanisms of your study anymore. You just read and repeat, read and repeat, read and repeat, from the beginning. And this is really bad. And it also it almost encourages people to cheat. You know already the answers of your test, more or less. You know already the questions. So what's the point? It doesn't make you a better person. It doesn't make you an honest person. People writing these questions down and writing the answers of these questions down because they already know these questions will get asked during the exam, and they have this in their pocket. They try to cheat. I don't know, man. This is the next point why I think it doesn't make you an honorable and more honest person. The contrary is the case. It encourages you to cheat. And of course, you could say, man, so why didn't you just not cheat? Yes, of course. I was not the worst cheater in the uni. But when you have all these resources available, then you will clearly think about going through the script, going through the things that you wrote down during your lessons, or just going into the internet and reading and learning all these questions, writing down your answers, and you're finished. So yeah, that's that. You're not gonna get an honest person. And I don't know, you can see it in the character of these students. They always bitch around, man, what kind of degree, what degree did you get on this last test? Man, I got a 3. What did you get? I got this. Didn't you look at the forum, at the internet? This question was there. Really? Okay. And then, some people they would like to share their cheat secrets, Some people don't share it. They kind of want to keep it for themselves, because at the same time you always have this competition, there are so many other students around you, and man, it doesn't make you a better person. And that's what I don't want to do. I want to play with open cards, I play with open cards. If I don't know something, I just say it. I don't know it. And I don't try to talk around this or... Anyway, So this is actually my rant about the modern education system, at least here in Vienna, at least here in Austria. I don't know how it is somewhere else. Please, I encourage you very much to tell me down in the comment field. Please don't hate me too much because I stopped studying. I want to spend my time with something useful. I have the impression that when I do these tutorials, you know, I get so many positive replies, positive input. Man, that's an awesome tutorial. He helped me a lot. These technique videos, these training tutorials, analytic bouldering. And I make such a video, you know, I invest my 10 or 20 hours even in such a video, and I get, I don't know, 6,000, 10,000, and maybe also 200,000 views, you know. Here I can have a much bigger impact, and I know that this stuff, I know perfectly well that this stuff is very badly paid, you know. I can't really rely on how much time are we into this video. Man, 26 minutes, bro. Anyway, I know I cannot really get reliable payment out of this work, so to say. Okay, I mean, for me it's I do it at the moment, so for me it's my work, yeah. And I would have probably much more. I could invest when it's about the money. I could invest my time much more efficiently in some kind of uni job, student job, whatever. Getting my fair share, you know, but not doing really anything useful. For me, it's not about getting rich or anything like that. I don't care about that stuff anymore. In former times, I was more about the money, you know. I was very interested, man, you know, because everyone was gaining money, and because there were also the people who finished high school and did not study, you know. They started to actually work, actually do something useful, maybe even, okay? So, I mean, don't get me wrong, when you work nowadays, it doesn't mean that you do something useful. But a lot of these people were doing something useful and did something useful and earned at the same time quite some money, you know, compared to me, who was studying, doing not something useful, and earning no money. So now I have the feeling that I at least do something useful, at least to some people out there. Correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me in the comments down below. But yeah, for me that's already an improvement. And I only got this improvement because I stopped studying, because I never could have had the time to make these videos and study at the same time, do these traveling vlogs and all that kind of stuff, you know. And that's why I also always try to incorporate something useful in my videos, so that the stuff that I produce is actually of use to something out there. I mean, there are YouTubers out there who get millions and millions of views, man, billions of views. But they are essentially wasting the time of their audience, because they do not produce something that is really useful. Yes, they produce obviously good entertainment, but what is entertainment? Entertainment is a nice and convenient waste of time, you know? When you have a rest day, or when you just come home from the training, you get something to eat, and then it's time for entertainment. But I want to be about self-improvement, you know? I want that my audience gets encouraged and motivated to improve themselves. This is what my channel is about in regards to climbing, in regards to mental things, you know, and maybe I will incorporate more of these real talks in the future. I start to kind of like this thing, you know. And we are still at 0 jump cuts, I just want to say here. Anyway, that's basically what I have to say about the modern educational system. This is why I don't study anymore. Please drop some likes and dislikes, of course, and comments in the comment field. Tell me what you think about all this. What is your experience with studying? Yeah, and I think I'll see you quite soon in the next video. Bye.